So, welcome everyone, I know probably standing between you and drinks and dinner, so we'll try to be crisp and stay on task here. We're here today to announce two things: a concept we call Profit Engine, which is going to be an umbrella concept for a whole line of products. And one of the products, the first products in the Profit Engine, is something we call Profit Advisor. And Profit Advisor is a technology that has been developed jointly with our partner Seek. So I'll start with the introductions of Steve Silva and Brian Parsonette over here in the front room. You should definitely make an opportunity to talk to them. They do some incredible big data analytics of time series data from process historians. And in the world that we're trying to engage ourselves in, which is really sort of I hesitate to use the word industrial Internet of Things because it may be a little premature to say that, but we're envisioning a world where there are intelligent autonomous devices that are being integrated either through systems or through the cloud or fog to higher level functions. In those devices, we see local analytics, and in the higher level, we see what I would call global analytics, and that's where our colleagues Seek come in because they provide the kind of analytics that look across all the devices in a plant or an enterprise. And the technology that they have is at the heart of what we're doing today. There are a few other people I'd like to introduce in the room. Gary Freeberger, standing by the door. He's the president of Process Automation, Schneider Electric Process Automation. Peter Martin, who will be up here next, is also my esteemed colleague and very knowledgeable about what we do. Grant Lesueur's around here somewhere. There's Grant. And next to Grant is Arvin Yarlagada from our software business. And these people all have a stake in what we're announcing today. So I guess just as a little bit of background, since I've been asked to introduce this, is that historically, in the process industries, we've focused on efficiency as a primary concern. We've been focusing on that. You see things like real-time optimization, advanced process control, reliability-centered maintenance. You can look at all sorts of things that have been key considerations for the process industries, and all of those are really efficiency-based. And efficiency is essential. It's absolutely essential, but it's also insufficient, I think, in the day and age we're in. Peter will talk about how the speed of business is changing and how the speed of business changing creates opportunities for increased profitability or reduced profitability. And so we think that it's time to focus much more on how we can make our clients more profitable with the technologies we have. I guess having said that, I would say to you that what we're really trying to be about is to create a set of technologies that add value to our customers in a way that is unique among our competitors. And I think so far, I think we're on a pretty good track there. So I think without further ado, because we are time limited and we are standing between you and dinner, I'm going to turn the podium over to Peter Martin and let him tell you all about what we're announcing today. And I'm going to sneak out here, even though I'm just a little too wide to fit through.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's great to be with everybody today. It's nice to see you, and I really appreciate your patience staying around for us. I love that. Thank you so much. We're pretty excited today. This is an exciting time for us because, as Chris said, our whole industry has been focused on improving efficiency. And efficiency is good, but it's just not enough. And we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to address that, where we're going with all this. To start, we have to talk about what is driving industry today. You know, when you talk about driving forces, you could probably come up with 20 of them. But we narrowed it down to two that we think are critically important in terms of where things are going, the future of automation. First is the speed of industrial business. It continues to increase. It goes faster and faster. Now, this probably started with the deregulation of the electric power grids. As they deregulated, we noticed pricing models going faster and faster and faster. 15 years ago, an industrial plant could establish a relationship with an electrical supplier for a year. for a year at a time that relegated the price of electricity to a constant value in the air. All you ever had to do was reduce consumption and you'd be able to directly calculate it into profitability. That's just not true anymore. Today in the United States, the price of electricity changes every 15 minutes in the open grid. The price of natural gas changes every 15 minutes on the open grid. The price of raw materials such as metals might change 3 or 4 times a minute. With outlets like Amazon, even the price of your goods, the value of the goods you're selling is changing more and more frequently. As those things are happening, we can't do business as usual. When you look at monthly analysis, monthly ERP reports, and trying to manage a business on monthly ERP reports, that was fine as long as the variables didn't change monthly. But when the variables are changing every 15 minutes, that's tantamount to trying to control pressure, scanning it once a month. We're in a new world, and we have to adapt to the new world. The second force you all know about is technology is offering us great opportunities. Technology is changing faster and faster and faster, becoming less expensive, more powerful, more distributable, more hardened. And it would be a shame if we didn't recognize that and we didn't step back and say, how can we use this new technology, whether it's based on industrial Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, fog, cloud, edge, whatever. The technology is changing. And so when we look at these two things, we feel at Schneider Electric, we have to capitalize on both of them to go forward. So in order to capitalize on both of them, I'm actually moving backwards in time. I want to talk a little bit about why we did process control to begin with. Process control, and this is a typical process control loop, was done so that we could improve the efficiency of industrial operations in real time. We could control the critical variables, make them efficient and safe as you ran your processes. And as we got better and better, if you watch the evolution of our industry, process control improved in leaps and bounds. We had feed-forward control, multivariable predictive control, and as we kept improving control, we kept pushing closer and closer to limits. And as you push closer and closer to limits, you, for example, needed to do safety control. A la Triconics, we need to control safety in real time, because you're pushing closer to safety limits. But you're not only pushing closer to safety limits, you're pushing closer to maintenance limits, reliability limits, so we have to be able to improve the reliability of the assets in our clients' plants. Now, over the last 10 years, there's been more progress made in the side of maintenance than almost any other area in our industry. Why? Because we're pushing that equipment hard. When you push the assets hard, you better be able to do sophisticated maintenance approaches. So moving forward, we feel we can start with these 3 real-time control domains, and all 3 are essential to be able to maximize efficiency. But we believe that there's a new domain that we have to layer on top of these, which is real-time profitability. That is the ability to measure and control operational profitability in real time and safely. And we look at it as a cascade control environment where you're cascading profitability over efficiency. Now, we really started on this. We were pioneers on this with items such as real-time accounting models, dynamic performance measures for the last 20 years. And we've been trying to do this as a service, go in and see if we can measure and control profitability as a service. And we've had some great success, but not enough. We're never able to scale it and move things forward. But the idea is, with all the installed base of automation and control in industrial plants, we as an industry, we as Schneider Electric, should be able to convert that installed base into the profit engine of those businesses. Industrial companies that make things, make money on making things. And we should be not just drive efficiency, we should drive profitability. So we're here to introduce this concept, the profit engine. We'll turn any industrial plant into the profit engine of their business. It's uniquely powered by Schneider Electric, and I'll explain what that means and what we do to empower that. It's built on our EcoStruxure platform, which is our IIoT platform. So it's intelligent assets, it's connectability, it's edge, it's cloud, it's moving across that platform using the technology that we have available to us to do some unique things. It's predicated on effective real-time process control, reliability control, and safety control, that first lower layer. That has to be in place. Because just like in cascade control, if your secondary loop isn't running well, your primary loop cannot possibly control. Our primary loop is profitability. Secondary loops are safety, reliability, and efficiency. So you need that base running well to move into profitability control. And it extends process control to real-time profitability control. As the speed of business increases, we cannot manage profitability on a monthly basis in industrial plants that are changing so dynamically. We need to apply real-time control theory, real-time controls to profitability, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So getting back to our model, this is the functional architecture of what we're calling the profit engine of industry. And if you look at it, we've been moving in this direction for years. We've been migrating in this direction years. We just believe we're introducing a product today that will allow us to actually talk about the profit engine in a more solidified manner. So if you look at process and logic control for efficiency, our Modicon brand, our Foxborough brand, have been really moving in that area. You look at reliability control, our Avantis brand and our Foxborough brand have been focused on that. When you look at safety control, closing the loop on safety, is Steve Elliott, who's here as well, is working with us on the safety side. Our Triconics and Modicon brands have been focused on that. And we've been growing these three areas over the last 20, 30 years, and very aggressively over the last 3 or 4 years. And then when you look at the upper level control loop, profitability, we're looking at that as a total Schneider Electric offering. When we got together, when we were acquired by Schneider Electric, I came out of the Inventus side. It opened our eyes to opportunities and possibilities that we never saw before. We should have seen them. They were sitting there, but we had brethren in Schneider Electric that were doing things that were just remarkable. And by combining what they were doing with what we were doing, we found we could actually build this profit engine as nobody else can. So last week, some of you probably got the press announcement that we launched a product last week we call the EcoStruxure Control Advisor, based on ExpertTune. And the reason we actually, and Grant's here to support that, the reason we did that is the exact thing I was talking to you about just a few minutes ago. And that is, if the process control and logic control isn't running optimally, you're not going to get your profitability control working. So we needed to focus a considerable amount of effort on making sure the process control loops are running optimally if you want to get to process control. So that was an announcement we made. When we announced it, we really didn't tie it into the profit engine because we were waiting until today, but that may give you some context in what we were doing. Today, we're here to announce another product. This is the product that Chris was alluding to when he was up here. We call it the EcoStruxure Profit Advisor. So we have a control advisor and a profit advisor. This is the product we felt we needed to have to show our clients how to close the loop on profitability control. Let me talk about the profit advisor for just a few minutes. It calculates real-time accounting factors from standard process historian data. Okay, that's what the Profit Advisor does. It calculates real-time accounting factors. Now, some of you may know that we've been working with real-time accounting factors for years. I was 6'7" when we started. So we've been working on this for a long time. But what we tried to do is implement them as a service. And it usually took us 6 to 8 weeks to go through and do the analysis. And by that time, we were finding the time to result was getting too long. We needed to productize this service to make it effective. So that's what we do. When we calculate the real-time accounting factors from standard process historian data. Notice what this means. This means it doesn't matter what the installed base of automation is. We link in at the historian level, any standard process historian through our Seek workbench. It measures operational profitability contribution in real time, starting at equipment level. It doesn't start at the top level. It starts at the equipment level. And then equipment combines into units. So we treat units as an asset. Units combine into areas. We treat areas as an asset. Areas combine into plants. We treat plants as an asset. Plants combine into enterprises. We treat enterprises as an asset. And enterprises combine into value chains. We treat value chains as assets. If you take it bottom up, you can actually get there step at a time. It's roll-up accounting. The way we do accounting through ERP is top-down. That is, you do accounting across an entire plant, and then you try to superimpose it down on the parts of the plant. It doesn't work. We're doing roll-up accounting, which means we start at the lower level in the plant and roll it up unit, area, plant. Why is that important? As the variability, if you look at roll-up accounting, what happens with ERP, you get to the end of the day, you say, how much energy did I consume on the day? And then you take an average factor. What was the energy cost on average over the day? You multiply that by the average factor. That's inaccurate. That's a very inaccurate measure. Why? Because the energy cost has changed every 15 minutes, and you're not even taking into consideration, did you consume the energy at the high price times or the low price times? By doing it bottom up, we can literally calculate the profitability as the prices change. You calculate the price per consumed unit right at the plant floor, and you roll it up. It becomes much more accurate cost accounting. So the roll-up models are critical. By the way, it also gives us visibility down to the equipment level, right down to the equipment level in the plant, which traditional ERP doesn't. And it has to come in industry-specific versions. This is something that it took me a long time to figure out, but we finally figured it out. You can't develop a generic real-time accounting model in the industrial world. We have one for the cement industry, one for base metals, we have one for ethylene, one for polypropylene, so on and so forth. Why? Because each asset base is different. Each business model is different. We had to do it on an industry-by-industry basis. Without doing that, we could not make this replicable. We could not make the model replicable. We use this tool in 3 different forms. There's 3 different modes of operation. By the way, they can all be done together, but they're 3 modes of operation. First, we tap into the historical data that's in the historian. In other words, we can go back in time, and we can put the real-time accounting models on top of the Seek workbench, and the profit advisor can go back in time, however long the historian has data, and it can take a operational profitability view historically, so you can find out where you were making money, where you were losing money. You could look for constraints on profitability, because if you see some of the trends becoming asymptotic, you know if the asymptote is your constraint, now find out what the constraint is and fix it. You can look for golden batches. They become very clear from an operational profitability perspective. Golden runs. So it gives you an opportunity to go back, use the history of the plant to figure out what you have to fix going forward. So it taps into that data very nicely. It also has a real-time mode, online mode. So you can tap right into the online historian and get a real-time accounting view of your plant to the equipment level online through that operation. So this can empower your entire workforce, whether it's operators, maintenance people, engineers, supervisors, managers, any person in a plant that has impact on profitability. We can give a view, and they can understand how their actions and activities impact the operational profitability of the plant. That's a learning system. That causes people to learn how to behave in a different way, how to behave around operational profitability. And the third mode is the predictive mode. I call it profit planning, but it's really prediction. How do you move into the forward? How do you move into the future and figure out how an action that you're taking right now, what is the impact going to be if you take that action 10 hours from now? Whatever the case may be. I'm not talking about that yet. I'm going to get back to that one in just a second. I need a little more background before I hit that. So what does the product look like? We call it the Ecosystem Profit Advisor. It has 2 components to it, the standard Seek Analytics Workbench, which is a very powerful tool set. And it has the industry-specific plugins that we've added to that. So we take the industry-specific plugin, and you get a profit advisor for the cement industry. Different plugin, you get a profit advisor for ethylene. Different plugin, you get a profit advisor for copper, so on and so forth. So different personalities, you get different profit advisors depending on the industry plugin you put in there. I want to point out, though, that when we put the plugin in, we made a deal that we wouldn't disable or change any of the standard Seek workbench capability. So anything that Seek brings to the table, you have available, our clients have available when they do this. And that combination produces the real-time accounting view, a number of different views, a number of different analytics. So you can go back, analyze your plant, see what's going on. You can work forward. This happens to be one from a cement plant, and it shows you an engineer. This is really an engineering view. This isn't the view we'd use with the operators, but everybody in the operation can get the data that they want from that plant. Now I'm going to go back to the predictive comment that I made earlier. One of the things we found out is working with our friends in software, Arvind, we have some great tools. We have great simulators, models based on first principles. As a matter of fact, when you think about it, our Pro 2 offering we use to design plants. We actually design the plants with that software, and when we're done designing them, you have a full first principle model of that plant sitting in software. And you can use those as the traditional IIoT concept of a digital twin. Now, normally a digital twin is when you have a piece of hardware or some operating unit and you simulate it in software. Actually, we're going the reverse way. We start with software and we go to the operating unit. My friend Tobias Schille over in the software group refers to this as the firstborn digital twin, because we actually start with the software first and get to the plant. But now think about this. You have an operator sitting in a control room. They're using a control console on your left. They have the profit advisor, so as they change their set points, they can see what the profit impact is. And all of a sudden, they realize that there's about a 10-hour delay from the time they make a change till the time they actually see its full impact on the plant. We all know about that. And they think, okay, I want to change this temperature from 380 to 420 degrees, but it's going to take me 10 hours to find out what the impact is. In 10 hours, I may find out that was a really bad decision. And I'm really costing the company money. So what do? They slide over to the other console with the digital twin in it. They make the change because that's not tied to hardware. You can jam it into fast forward mode. It's like going fast forward on your tape recorder. You go forward 10 hours. You look at the profit advisor that's running in the digital twin, and it will tell you, if you make that change, this is the profit impact you're going to see in 10 hours. You see, when you're looking at IIoT, when you're looking at all these capabilities, it's not technology for its own sake. I read so many articles where we have this new technology, we have this new technology. We don't believe in that. We believe it's for value. We call it value-focused IIoT, and this will give you an idea of how we do that. By the way, because we have experience doing this as a service, we also have some case studies and case material. On average, we find just empowering the workforce, never mind the other improvements you can make, just empowering the workforce with this data typically results in a 1% to 3% improvement in production value, that's value of the products produced, and a 3% to 5% reduction in energy and material cost. Now, if you were going to look at this from a pure return on investment perspective and only look at the profit advisor, we would expect you'd typically get a return on investment, 100% return on investment, well within 3 months. So by itself, it's a remarkable payback. But that's not the power of the tool. That's not why we did it. That gives you great payback, but the power of the tool is it enables effective business diagnostics of process constraints. You may go through and do a diagnostic analysis and find out that your real issue is a pump. You have a pump that can only go up to 350 gallons a minute, and that's your constraint. And nobody wanted to switch that pump out because they didn't want to spend the $500,000 to do it until you realize it's costing you $2 million a month to keep that pump in there. All of a sudden, we have the data to do the things that we need to do correctly. It's repeatable and scalable. This is one of the things we did not have when we did this as a service. As a service, it was not repeatable and scalable, and frankly speaking, we'd lose interest. You'd start doing this, and 2 months later, you'd go back and say, okay, we got it all running. What was it you got running? It was 2 months ago you started this. Now, what took us 2 months to do, we can do in a day. We can get it up and running because the models are all pre-built. They need to be adapted. You can do it in a day. It reduces the time to value. You can get the time to value down very quickly. It makes return on investment improvements on anything being done in a plant measurable and visible. If the plant people do a new maintenance procedure, they can look at the results. They can find out whether that procedure added value or detracted value. If they put in advanced controls, they can see it. If they just change a control strategy. By the way, you'd be amazed, as we did a lot of background work, an awful lot of the value can be gained at the base level by tuning control loops, by fixing that level. And then once you get that under control, you move up to multivariable predictive control and optimization, and the results are phenomenal. And it empowers the workforce to learn. It's a learning engine to learn how their behaviors, their actions, their activities drive profitability safely. We tie this into Schneider Electric's innovation at every level concepts. We start with smart control. What do we mean by smart control? Well, for the last 100 years, we've been focused on real-time control on efficiency. Process control and logic control, focused on efficiency. We're spreading out to focus control on reliability, safety, and profitability. So expanding the control out is the first piece of smart control. The second piece is being able to start at the equipment level and move right up through the asset and asset sets of the plant and the enterprise. That's smart control. If every asset is running optimally, you're making money. Well, if I could learn how to go in the right direction. Sorry, I got a trick finger. You notice that. I apologize. Second is the empowered workforce. But the question you got to ask yourself is, why would we empower our workforce? When I came into the industry in the 1820s, and I learned control, there were two types of controls I was taught: automatic control and manual control. In other words, the reason you empower people is to be in the control loop, make decisions that are driving control, profitability control, safety control, reliability control. So it's not just providing data. That's fairly useless. It's providing information that will drive control, bringing them into the loops. And if you do that for every asset, if you extend the control and you bring the human into the loops, you end up with optimized assets throughout the whole organization. And that's what we refer to as value-focused IIoT. So getting back to the profit engine, the profit advisor is the tool that we're announcing today. The profit engine is the concept around that folds around this tool. The goal of the profit engine is to drive measurable operational profitability improvements, safely. And the key point there is measurable. I think we as an industry have been making money for our clients for years and nobody knows it. We've got to make that, what we're making, visible. I think we're the most valuable investment an industrial company can make. Now we have to show it. And so moving in this direction does it. It powers value-focused IIoT. It's based on our patented real-time accounting models that are patented to Schneider Electric. It's based on our world-leading safety, process, and reliability control background. I mean, when we pulled everything together under Schneider Electric, wow, we just had world-leading capability that we could tap into. And it's really profit control cascaded to process control. So that's what we're talking. We're talking about the profit engine as a concept, the profit advisor as a tool. And Chris, I'll turn it back over to you for questions and answers, because I don't know the answers. Come on.
Thank you, Peter, for turning it over to me. So I think from our point of view, there's an underlying theme that I just want to point out one more time, which is we think we have an opportunity to create the kind of value for our customers that perhaps we've been creating all along but was unmeasured, and make it visible and make it a part of the way they do business. And that's kind of at the heart of what we're doing these days. We're trying really hard as we move into next generation technologies that are Internet of Things based sorts of technologies, being able to elevate the discussion from controlling pressures, temperatures, and flows to controlling the profitability of the enterprise becomes a much more relevant discussion. It means that we're more valuable as partners to our clients. So with that, does anyone have any questions? I know Peter talked very quickly. Yes, sir.
When you did the diagram of the structure, starting with the historian, certainly there can be other sources for the information than the historian, but you have to start somewhere. Do you envision bringing other data sources into the model?
Sure. I mean, the historian is good because, A, it gives us a pathway to lots of different platforms. We can do this on our own Wonderware historian. We can do it on OSI Pi. We can do it on Aspen's historian, Honeywell's historian. So it's a really nice way to make this platform independent. But data from the platform itself can also feed the engine. So the historian becomes a convenience, but it's not the only way of doing it. Okay. Yeah, I'll get Joy first. Ladies first.
Thank you. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks to me like there's another aspect to what you're doing that you're not even plugging, which I don't quite understand why you are, which is that what you got is a psychologically sound process here. You kept kind of edging around the periphery of psychological theory there. But what you're doing is setting up so that you've got very positive feedback loops for the employees. And
Yeah,
oftentimes I gotta
that's
tell you,
true.
I listen to these presentations and I'm not hearing anything about the employees except that they're there.
Yeah, so I'll take a shot at this, Peter, and then if I botch it, you can jump in. But
Can you summarize the question quickly?
so the question is that what we really weren't emphasizing was the impact on the humans in the loop. Is that correct, Joy?
Correct.
And so let me talk a little bit about the humans. So the first thing is that and we've known this for a long time. Years ago, Don Clark and a gentleman from Chevron and I did a series of interviews and actually wrote a treatise on console operators. And one of the best practices we learned was that they needed to sort of be challenged with a comparison. Because what ends up happening is they come in the control room and they dial in sort of the values that they're most comfortable with, and generally they don't push the units. Generally, they don't necessarily even understand the implications of some of the moves they make in the control room. And what we're trying, one of the things we're trying to do, and you should really take a look at Seek, but they have a very nice graphical engine, nice trending engine, so you can actually take a look at the data we're creating and understand what the implications of the move are. That then enables you to be able to challenge a control room operator to make a more economical move on the process rather than a comfy one, right? And so that is definitely one of the things we're trying to accomplish. The other thing that we're trying to accomplish has to do with management, because Peter mentioned how, prices of electricity, prices of gas, prices of all kinds are highly variable, both on the feedstock and energy side as well as the product side. And you reach a point where the humans always manage this. When you negotiated energy prices for a year, it was easy to manage within that. But when they change at such a high rate, you can't manage it as a human anymore. So you have to provide some sort of automatic control because the period is changing. It's getting ever shorter, right? The period of change is getting ever shorter. And so for the management side of this thing, what it does is it helps them get their arms around something that is changing at such a velocity that humans can't keep up with it. So I think there's kind of two human aspects to this that I see. I don't know if you want to add any more to that.
I will have to talk to Mike. What's that? Look, I was born in the 50s. And no, I won't go into that. I'm just going to give you one example to tie into what you did. Years ago when we were first starting this, we did kind of a proof of concept at Dynegy Midstream Services. And as a matter of fact, ARC wrote us up a nice write-up on that. And in that proof of concept, the COO, Steve Furbarker of Dynegy, mentioned that it meant $58 million to his bottom line a year, just to empower the people. And I said, so there's the value. And he turned to me and he said, no, that's not the value. I said, what's the value? He said, my workforce has never been happier. They understand their impact. They understand they're part of the game, and they're just motivated by that. So the psychology part I don't touch on because I'm an engineer, and engineers don't touch on psychology, but it's huge. It's huge.
Well, you're all over it.
Yeah, we keep it all in and explode. I just said Keith was next here.
I'll save mine for cocktails.
Okay.
That was a perfect answer.
I'll answer yours.
I'm digging down.
Quick question on the learning. Is this applicable for figuring out a plant shutdown on profitability? Could it influence whether you do 1 month early, 1 month late? You might extend the operation out to make a little bit more money by running a little longer, or maybe take advantage of shut down during a time of higher energy costs. If you expect the energy cost to be lower in the next quarter,
It certainly can contribute to that, yes. I said it certainly can contribute to that because we have the ability to, of course, project moves, project profitability, and if you have some way of projecting some of those costs. It really, there's so many factors in what it takes to actually determine whether to shut down a plant. For example, do you have a critical piece of equipment that is not spared, that could fail, is likely to fail? Those kinds of things we may not catch. Now, we may be able to identify that piece of equipment is operating subpar. We can certainly do some things with the data to help us identify a weak piece of equipment in the chain. But what we can't necessarily do is predict when that piece of equipment might fail, for example. Yeah, you're very welcome.
So it's,
I think we've run out of time.
Okay, great.
If anybody has really hard questions, go to Arvin's press conference and ask him.
That's right.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.